In this video for Positive Maths, we're going to look at finding missing dimensions. So we can find any missing dimension by following these steps. Okay, so let's break this down. Step number 1, we need to write down what we are given. Okay, and on the right we'll just go through an example. So let's say in one question we're given the area of a circle to be 80 centimeters squared. We write down the formula for the information that we're given. So the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared, and we let this be equal to the value that we're given, so equals 80. Step number 3, we fill in any given dimensions. So we always know that pi is 3.14 or 3.142, or sometimes they can help us to use pi is equal to 22/7. We are looking for the radius, and we have the area. So now, after this, it's really just algebra. We're solving for r. So we solve the equation to find the missing dimension. So we have r squared is equal to 80 divided by 3.14. r squared is equal to 25.4777. Therefore, r is equal to the square root of this value. So we find that r is equal to 5.0475. So round to the nearest whole number, r is equal to 5 centimeters. So little things that we can watch out for in questions is they can tell us what to use for pi. They can say pi is 22/7. They could say pi is equal to 3.142. Or they could say, like in this example, pi is equal to 3.14. So we use the value that they suggest. We also need to watch out for our units. So area, centimeters squared. The radius is a length, so it's just centimeters. And the third thing then that we're going to watch out for is if they ask us to round it to a decimal place or to the nearest whole number. So let's look at an example. If the volume of a cylinder is 100 centimeters cubed and the height of the cylinder is 10 centimeters, find the length of the radius. Give the answer correct to one decimal place. Okay, so we're going to follow our steps. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to write out or identify the information that we're given. Okay, so the volume is equal to 100 centimeters cubed. We have the height is equal to 10 centimeters. And we're looking for the radius. The next thing we're going to do is identify the formula that we're going to use. So the volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r squared h. So we know what the volume is. We know a value for pi. We know the height. So what we're looking for is the radius. Okay, so we've identified the formula we're going to use. Now we're going to fill in the dimensions that we have to find the radius. So we have the volume is 100 centimeters. Pi, they don't tell us what to use, so we're going to use pi is equal to 3.142. We're looking for the radius squared, so we'll just leave that as it is. And then our height is 10 centimeters. So now we're just going to simplify and solve for r. So one step at a time. We have 100 is equal to 31.42 by r squared. So r squared is going to be equal to 100 divided by 31.42. So we have the radius squared is equal to 3.1827 to 4 decimal places. Therefore, our radius is equal to the square root of this value. So we find our radius is equal to 1.7840. So we check two things at the end. What value or what unit are we using? And are we rounding it? Okay, so we're asked to give the answer correct to one decimal place. So our radius is going to be equal to 1.8 and its length, so it's centimeters. Okay, next example. If a cylinder has a volume of 36 centimeters cubed and has a radius of 4 centimeters, find the height. Give your answer correct to two decimal places. So I'm just going through and underlining kind of the important bits of information. Okay, so again, let's identify what we're going to do. The first step is to write down what we're given. So the volume is equal to 36 centimeters cubed. The radius is equal to 4 centimeters. We're looking for the height, and we're going to use pi is equal to 3.142. Okay, that's our first step. The next step is to identify which formula we're going to use. So we're given the volume, so we're going to use again the formula for the volume. So the volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r squared h. Okay, so again we have the volume, we have a value for pi, we have r, so we're just looking for h. Okay, now we fill in our values. So we have 36 is equal to 3.142 multiplied by radius squared. So that's 16 multiplied by h. So 36 is equal to 50.272 multiplied by h. Therefore our height is going to be equal to 36 divided by 50.272. So we find that our height is 0.7161. So again, before we leave that as our final answer, we check that we need to round to two decimal places. So our height is going to be 0.72, and again, it's centimeters for our units. Okay, one other little thing that I wanted to point out here is that just be careful with rounding. So if they ask us to give our answer correct to two decimal places, we wait until we get to the very end of the question to round to that number of places. If we start rounding earlier on in the question, we might not get the same kind of level of accuracy. We might get a slightly different answer. Okay, so in this question we're told that two cylinders have the same volume. So one cylinder has a radius of 8 centimeters and a height of 9, and another has a radius of 6 and a height h. So we're not given the height for the blue cylinder. We are told that the two cylinders have the same volume. So that's an important piece of information. And we need to find the height of the blue cylinder. Okay, so I'm going to call this cylinder A and cylinder B. So what we're told is that the volume of A is equal to the volume of B. Okay, so again, on the diagram, I'm just going to highlight the information. Radius is equal to 8. 9 centimeters is our height for our first one. Second cylinder, the radius is equal to 6, and our height, we'll just leave it as h here. Okay, now we're going to write down the equation for the volume again. So the volume of A is going to be equal to pi r squared h. Volume of B is also going to be pi r squared h. But we just need to be careful here that the formula here on the left, we're going to be using 8 and 9. And the formula on the right, we're going to be using 6, and we're going to be looking for h. So we can say that these are equal to each other because they've told us at the start. Okay, for this question, again, we're going to use pi is equal to 3.142. So, similar to before, we identify the information we're given, we write out the formula we need to use, and now we're going to fill in the values that were given. So, we have 3.142 multiplied by radius squared, so that's 8 squared for the first one, multiplied by 9. This is equal to 3.142 by a radius squared. This time it's 6 squared and h. So now, again, really the rest of it is solving for h. So we take it one step at a time. First I'm going to multiply my 3.142 by 9. So we get 28.278. And 8 squared is 64. On this side I'm going to have 3.142 multiplied by 36h. Okay. So solving for h. On the left then I get 1809.792 is equal to 113.112h. So h is going to be equal to 1809.792 divided by 113.112. So we find that h is equal to 16. So again, we check at the end, do we need to round? No. They've just told us to find the height. So final answer, height is going to be equal to 16 centimeters. So we must not forget our units. For more information, you can visit www.PositiveMaths.ie. You can email us at info@PositiveMaths.ie and find us on Facebook and Twitter.